This is Expert Advantage, a behind the scenes look at how JD Power experts help clients turn actionable market intelligence into strategic advantage. I'm your host, Michael Vermillion with JD Power, and today I'm joined by Paul Linden from our auto finance group. Paul, welcome to Expert Advantage.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
So let's just dive right into it. In the work that you're doing, what's the biggest challenge that the industry is facing today?
Well, there's a lot of challenges going on right now. There's AI challenges. Are we using it too much? Are we using it too little? Is it accurate? Things like that. But one of the things that's a challenge now that's always been a challenge is if you're an auto finance lender, how do you ensure out of all the hundreds and hundreds of lenders that are out there that you're competing against, how do you ensure you're one of the dozen or so lenders that a dealer is going to use regularly? They generally, keep 12 or so on hand, and they might use 5 or 6 more than the others. But after that, they ignore the other few hundred lenders that they might have access to. So how do you become one of those lenders that's always being considered by the dealership to finance their customers' sales? And more importantly, how do you become the one or two lenders that a finance manager is going to present to the customer as their recommendation? Hey, we have these two lenders. We worked with them a long time. Here's your rate or your monthly payment with this lender, and same with the other. How do you make sure you're always in that discussion and eligible to close that deal, to actually be the lender chosen by the customer and the dealer?
So, Paul, you have 30 years of industry experience, I think, coming up this year, 14 years at JD Power. You're our point person for providing support for our flagship PIN Navigator solution. You provide a lot of competitive intelligence for auto finance lenders. So, kind of given all of that, your level of expertise and experience, what do you think is kind of the root cause of the problem here? What's really like driving this issue for the indirect lenders?
Well, it's first of all, the competition is insane. It's very hard to make sure you're always one of the most competitive offers out there. But there's a misconception out there, kind of that rate always wins. That you always have to be the lowest rate to win the business. And our data shows, there's plenty of auto finance lenders out there that are almost never the lowest rate available, yet they have sizable market shares, and they're always in the game in terms of being one of the top lenders in the country. So the rate is important. It's a key component of why you win the business and why you don't. But it's not the only thing. There's many other things that play a factor in this.
Okay, so if a CEO had the right data in front of them, what would they be doing differently tomorrow morning to them?
If they had the right data, it's looking at what we call the total dealer offering. So essentially, they want to put themselves first and foremost in the shoes of the finance manager. If you're a finance manager and it's up to you to decide which of these many lenders to use, what's important to you? So it's important for a lender to have a competitive overall package to the dealer and tailor it to each of the risk segments that are out there. So risk segments being credit bands, loan to value bands, and the biggest one is how much you're compensating the dealer for their services. So that a finance manager is going to look at all those in total, not just one or the other. So don't price your loans as if you're operating in a vacuum. Loan pricing, we know, starts with the cost of funds of the lender, their operating expenses, their expected losses, and then what their required profit margin is going to be. But what you could do that and come up with loan pricing and then stop there, which is what lenders did for many years before we had such good data to look at. But now they're able to compare that rate with the dealer compensation to other lenders and make sure that you're not losing volume because your dealer offering is not competitive, or are you losing profit margin because your dealer offering is maybe too competitive or too rich. So it's looking at the data and making in concert with certain metrics and make sure they are telling the full story and you're not just looking at one or the other.
Terrific. I wonder if you could share maybe an example or a story with us. We don't have to name names, but
Mhm.
do we have a subscriber who really kind of got this right, and what unlocked it for him?
Yeah, a couple. So there was a lender that came to me, was considering subscribing to Pin Navigator. They needed more actionable competitive intelligence, and they had a specific issue that they're trying to increase their share in one of the lower prime segments. And they thought the rate was competitive, but they really weren't sure. So they took a chance, and they talked to their dealers. Dealers often say their rates they always want rates to be lower, of course. Um, so they lowered their rate and their share didn't increase. And they let that kind of settle for a couple of months, and they lowered the rate again and the share didn't increase again. And when I started looking at the data and sharing the data with them during the presentation, it showed that it was never about rate. It was about dealer compensation. To begin with, the dealer compensation they were offering at those rates in those prime segments was about half of what the competition was offering. So, you know, dealers dealers are going to be able to are going to use the lowest rate when possible, but a few basis points of rate, 20, 30 basis points of rate doesn't mean much in monthly payment, a few dollars, something like that. And they have profit goals just like lenders do, just like any business does. So they have to assign loans that are going to hit their profit goals, as well as doing the best, giving the best overall deal to the customer. So Mike, there is one other client example that I can share. So we've had numerous. I've seen numerous lenders that where I'm looking at their data, their booked rates, their market shares, and I'll see their let's say their rates in prime or super prime was way below the competition, or they weren't increasing along with the competition, or there was a lag there. Um, and they're winning a lot of share. That was not the issue. But what they don't know without looking at the data is that they're likely leaving money on the table in terms of profit margin, because you can lower your rate and increase your beneficial spread to the competition only so much, and you're only going to get so much more share. You're not going to get 100% of the market, no matter what, nor do you want it. So something that was great about is great about our data and being able to show lenders that hey, maybe you're pricing this in this segment too rich. You have room to increase your rate 20 basis points, 30 basis points, something like that, and it's likely not going to adversely impact your share at all. You've probably been leaving some money on the table all this time because you don't want to make sure your share doesn't fall off. But again, don't operate in a vacuum. Make sure you are pricing your loans in comparison to the competition, in comparison to what's out there.
Thanks, Paul. I think it's another great example of how our subscribers can really use the JD Power data to make the right decisions to improve the financial results of their business. In terms of your role in working with our subscribers and our customers, where does your judgment as an industry expert come in that the numbers alone can't provide?
Yeah. So to me, the role of the expert, it starts with where do you start? If you get your hands on really great actionable data, one of the hardest things is just coming out of the gate and saying, what do I do first? So I still remember when I was a young employee at a national top 5 national lender. And my pricing manager came to me and said, "You're the new Pin Navigator expert. Congratulations." And I said, "Great. What's Pin Navigator?" And once I realized it was 95 million transactions going back 10 years with 70 different variables per transaction and the ability to cut and slice the data in unlimited ways, it was very, very intimidating. I spent a long time looking at that, saying, where do I start? So that's something that the role of after I've been doing this now for so many years, the big thing I like doing is getting in front of a client, especially a new client or one that hasn't been using the data as well as they could, and showing them where to start, and showing them which segments of the business are helping them succeed and which segments are dragging them down, and then identifying why. Is it like if we look at the segments that are dragging them down, is it because of a policy decision that maybe they're not in a term band that other lenders are in? Is it maybe it's an advance issue? They don't want to lend over, risk department doesn't want to lend over 115 or 120% LTV, something like that. Or is it a segmentation difference? Are they just being maybe too broad in how they define lending segments? And other lenders are probably being more sophisticated and more granular, and they're looking at all these lender segments and really picking apart the best ways to succeed in each one. So essentially, it's us, at JD Power using data to understand what effect pricing changes, will have, showing lenders, clients, all the years of all the things we've learned. We leave out all the data runs that took us down the wrong path. We share with them the data runs that were the most impactful and that helped clients in the past.
So let's talk about business impact for a minute. When a lender finally, gets this right, how does it show up in the financials?
So good question. So they're able to hit their goals, whether it's their volume goals, their margin goals. They're able to understand better market influences. When if certain lenders are gaining share, they can parse through the data and figure out why. It's never there's never no reason for it. There's always always a reason that either the data or the market conditions can explain. And they're better. It's easier for them to adjust to spread changes to the competition over time and in real time. So we're always going to have challenges in auto finance. They're going to vary from different from affordability to gas prices or interest rates going up. We're going to have those things come and go. But the key is being able to understand what you're seeing in the data and how best to make the best of a situation that sometimes you don't have full control of.
So, Paul, you clearly have a passion for this, right? You've been in the industry for 30 years, 14 years with JD Power. Like, what's behind that? What makes you excited about working in this industry, working with JD Power, working with this data, working with our customers and our subscribers?
Mhm. Well, a lot of it does go back to when I first started looking at data as a lender and knowing the struggles, knowing that I didn't know everything, that I was potentially leading my company down a wrong path. And so, now in this position, it does feel really good to get in front of a lender and show them kind of things that maybe they haven't seen before, um, and show them different ways of looking at the data and being able to. We show a lot of graphs that show price elasticity looks. See what different levers in the market move the needle. And when you show them, graphs that shows, an increase in share lines up exactly with, some certain change, whereas a decrease in rate or an increase in dealer compensation, something like that, and they see the connection, it's kind of really cool to to see the change in their eyes and their ability to do their job better.
So just to wrap up, if a leader who's either watching this podcast or perhaps listening to the podcast could just take
Mhm.
away one thing from this conversation, what would it be?
Yeah. Yeah, this is something I've talked to a number of lenders about. So it's easy to get into the habit of um, trying to understand the lending market based solely on senior management requests. So a lot of lenders, and I had this in my career as well, become analysts become order fillers. They wait for questions to come down from above. They pull data, they put together analysis, and they send it back, and then they do that over and over and over again. But what we're kind of missing there is, these analysts who are in the data every day. They know it better than everybody else. They know what's available much more than, let's say, senior management might. So my recommendation that's probably not done enough is allow your analysts, your team, to build their own analyses. To don't fill an order that I'm asking for. Pretend like you own the company, and what do you think you should be looking at? And look at it differently than we were looking at it before. Um, Honestly, my most insightful analyses came after I joined JD Power because I stopped spending so much time filling orders. And now it was just me sitting down trying to figure out, okay, what's the best way to look at this? Maybe I'm going to forget about what I did before. But what's the best way to find these insights? And it didn't take long to stumble upon some really interesting ways of looking at the data that in 16 years of being a lender, I didn't see because I was kind of just filling the request that was in front of me. And we at JD Power, we're here to help lenders with that.
Well, Paul, thanks so much for joining us today.
All right, you're welcome. Appreciate it, Mike.
And to our viewers and our listeners, thanks for joining us on Expert Advantage. If you're looking to turn actionable market intelligence into strategic advantage, JD Power's experts are here to help. I'm Michael Vermillion, and we'll see you next time.